This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg.
When Derek Johnson was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, his family thought that he would never be able to speak. And then they met Professor Anna Stubblefield, and she believed that with the right technique, he could say what was on his mind. But what began as an opportunity turned into accusations of sexual assault. I'm Kathleen Goldhar, and this week on Crime Story, we dive into the complicated questions surrounding the doc, Tell Them You Love Me. Find Crime Story wherever you get your podcasts.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At noon, it's minus 12 downtown under a mainly cloudy sky. It's minus 10 in Gimli and minus 22 in the Paw. Premier Wab Kinew says there are 1,255 more healthcare staff now working in Manitoba than last April. Kinew made the announcement today. He says that surpasses the goal set by the NDP government when it first came into office to bring in 1,000 net new healthcare workers. Kinew broke down the numbers.
481 nurses. After years of losing nurses in Manitoba, we've stopped the trend. We've started to turn the corner. When we talk about healthcare aides, we signed a great new contract within the past year, 386 new healthcare aides doing the heavy lifting, doing so much important work at the bedside, 138 new physicians.
Kinew also says they have brought in 162 new allied healthcare professionals, from those who work in diagnostics to paramedics. He says in order for the province to fix healthcare, it needs more people on the front lines. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Donald Trump is not joking about annexing Canada. Trudeau made the comments today behind closed doors at a Canadian Economic Summit. But those comments were heard outside the room. David Thurton reports.
So as much as I know the media would love to stick around for the Q&A, they're not going to be able to do that. So we'll ask our friends from the media to please,
As the Prime Minister kicked the media out of a summit with business leaders, Justin Trudeau was caught in an apparent hot mic moment. His comments were carried on loudspeakers outside the room. And this is what the media heard.
Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing. In my conversation with him...
It's hard to hear, but Trudeau says Trump's goal is to absorb Canada, that it's, quote, a real thing. Eventually, the audio feed was cut. But Trudeau's comments underscore what Canada could be facing with a new Trump presidency. Trump has repeatedly called Canada the 51st state and referred to Trudeau as an American governor. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
The federal Liberal leadership candidates have another hurdle to cross today. It's a $125,000 payment to stay in the race. The candidates have already laid out $100,000 to get their campaign started, and after today's payment, another $25,000 will be needed by February 17th. At least one candidate, Karina Gould, is critical of the steep cost, saying it's unfairly narrowing the field. There's some good news this morning on the Canadian economic front. Statistics Canada says 76,000 jobs were added to the economy last month. That moves the unemployment rate down to 6.6% from 6.7% in December. Peter Armstrong has more.
This is 2 months in a row now of job market growth that's well above expectations, and it marks 3 straight months of gains in the jobs market after we had seen a pretty solid stretch where the unemployment rate had been rising relentlessly. And over those 3 months, Canada's added like 211,000 jobs. Better still, these January numbers, they were almost entirely private sector jobs. Now, all this matters even more than usual, as so much of the economic conversation in Canada has been focused on the impact of a potential trade war. with the United States. And Canada's economy isn't exactly fighting that war from a position of strength. You look at per capita GDP, it's fallen for 6 straight quarters. The unemployment rate had been rising relentlessly. So this is good news, and it does provide at least something of a cushion that allows the economy to deal with all of this uncertainty that's just sloshing around the world right now. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Manitoba's jobless rate, meantime, edged down slightly to 6.1% in January from 6.2% in December. And finally, she says it's a call for peace for her people. Ada Harrison is opening her doors to host Brandon's first Palestinian Cultural Pavilion. It's the first year a Palestinian pavilion has been part of the Westman Multicultural Festival. Harrison says it's been heartbreaking to see her fellow Palestinians killed and their homes destroyed in the Israel-Hamas war. Harrison wants her pavilion, located at the backyard on Aberdeen, to bring people from Brandon and Palestinians together.
That's my hope. That's my dream. And if they want to live all of us together, I'm open to live together, but in peace and equality. Less than that, I refuse to live.
This weekend's Westman Multicultural Festival will feature 11 different pavilions. Another first-time pavilion is from Nigeria. And that is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 12:30. Taking a look at the weather now in Winnipeg today. A mix of sun and cloud and a high of -10. Northwest wind 10 gusting to 20. For Brandon, a mix of sun and cloud and a high of -14. Dauphin, a mix of sun and cloud and a high of -14. In the Paw and Flin Flon, a mix of sun and cloud, chance of light snow and a high of -16. For Thompson, mainly cloudy, 60% chance of light snow and a high of -17. And in Churchill, mainly cloudy, 60% chance of light snow and a high of -18.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Friday edition of Radio Noon. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten. It's a cool kind of a day out there, but not too bad. Going for a high of -10. Coming up on the show today, retro rock bands are back in Winnipeg this summer, including Def Leppard and Foreigner. Are you a fan of the retro rock groups, or do you look for new music instead? If you are a fan, what would be your dream band that you'd like to come to town? That's the call-in conversation on Radio Noon today, 204-780-0893. And also coming up on the show, when you think of farming, data and spreadsheets don't necessarily come to mind, but that's changing. We'll hear about that. But first up, electrical vehicle chargers will be popping up in communities around the Interlake. More EV chargers will be popping up in municipalities in the a little bit north of Winnipeg in the Interlake. The town of Stonewall is seeking qualified contractors to install level 2 and level 3 chargers in key community buildings in Stonewall, Selkirk, and the RM of Woodlands, and in the RM of Rockwood. While the chargers will be a welcome addition for EV owners, the plan aims to benefit those who can't drive. Lisa Viva is the coordinator for SAMS, Stonewall and Area Mobility Services. That's what that stands for. Hello.
Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Good, thanks. So tell us some more about this proposal. How will SAMS benefit from the EV chargers?
Okay, well, we've actually been evaluating previously on how to meet the current and future needs of our community with our fleet that we currently have. So we looked at many things. We wanted to align with our partners' climate change plan. So we went through and we looked at the option of doing EV vehicles. So part of the EV vehicle project that we're creating comes the charging station network that we're actually looking at getting installed in our Interlake at the current moment. So we currently...
go ahead. No, please.
So we currently run with 4 vehicles, and we do all the mobility service in the Interlake area. So we cover RM of Woodlands, we cover RM of Rosser, RM of Rockwood, town of Stonewall. We even go as far north as St. Laurent. So we have quite the area that we do cover with our transportation system.
So will this just be for that transportation system, or will residents be able to access the chargers as well?
No, residents will be able to access them as well. We've placed them in areas where we require them the most, but in taking into consideration that they will be for public use, we've tried to place them in those towns in specific areas where public would be most willing to or need to use them. So, for instance, like a lot of the rec centers
Right.
is kind of the areas where we've specified that they'll go. So anyone that, goes to a sporting event would have the ability to use that charger while they're there for the sporting event.
And how much do they cost, and who's paying for them?
Okay, well, obviously we are paying for them. It depends on the type of charger. There's two types of chargers, so the level 2 and the level 3.
Yeah.
So level 2, generally, you're looking approximately $15,000. The level 3, you're looking approximately $45,000 each. So we have a project going that we are actually working with the provincial government. They have actually given us a partial grant for this. And then it's just our municipalities that are going together to cover the rest of the costs outside the grant.
Give me an idea of the scope of SAMS, which just to remind our listeners is Stonewall and Area Mobility Services. How do you operate in Stonewall and the surrounding communities?
Well, we generally, like I say, we have the 4 buses, so we operate mostly Monday to Friday. We work from 6:30 in the morning till 6 at night. Anything outside of those hours, we are still available, and it's just done by special request. It's not where I just automatically have a driver. We currently have 6 drivers on staff. They're all part-time, so these are gentlemen that have the best ethic in the world, and they will work no matter what, so it's a good system. We provide transportation services for the local hospitals, local day programs, general medical appointments for people, any personal errands. If they need to go to the grocery store, we can do that. We take them to recreational activities. So we generally deal with seniors and any persons with mobility concerns, or if they don't have their own vehicle, we like to, be able to get them where they still need to go so they can still feel independent.
Yeah. So what impact will EVs have on your organization? Will you eventually be saving money using them, or is this a step into recognizing climate change, or what?
I think it's a little bit of both. For sure, we did some, we had what do they call it, a feasibility study done, which was very favorable. Obviously, the gas prices going up, so we would have less gas prices. Climate change, obviously electric, so it's green. So I think benefits to the community would be the green, and then benefits to us, obviously, would be less cost, so that we can keep those costs down to the customers.
And what are you hearing from the community members about the project? What's the feedback been like?
So far, what we have heard, we haven't heard a lot so far because we're more or less just getting started, but we've had good feedback. A lot of people are interested to see how this would actually work. The range is where I think most people are worried about and interested to see how that's going to work, because we're not in the city, right? And one of our trips could be 100, 120 kilometers per trip.
Yeah.
So I think that's where people are interested to see how that's going to work.
And is that why you have the level 2 and level 3 chargers? Because one would give you more range?
Yes, correct. So we've placed the level 3s in the areas a little bit further away from us. So they're kind of at a halfway point of where we would generally go.
Right.
So, like we could go 100 kilometers north of Stonewall here. So we've kind of got those chargers placed in a midpoint where if we do need to stop and charge, then we can. It won't affect any travel.
Oh, I see. Well, thank you very much for telling us about this very forward-thinking project. Thanks a lot, Lisa.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's Lisa Veville. She's the coordinator for SAMS, that's Stonewall and Area Mobility Services.
New on CBC Gem this February. 3 inspiring films that celebrate Black history. Summer of Soul unearths never-before-seen footage of the Harlem Cultural Festival in 1969, featuring music's greatest artists. Invisible Beauty profiles fashion icon Beth Ann Hardison and her lasting impact. And Queen of Glory takes us on an intimate journey of the Ghanaian immigrant experience. Watch them all for free, starting February 1st on CBC Gem.
You're listening to CBC Radio Noon. You're at 89.3 FM, 990 AM. I'm Lori Hoog-Stratton. And coming up on the show later in the hour. With news that Def Leppard and Foreigner are coming to Winnipeg this summer, how do you feel about retro bands? Are you a fan of vintage musicians reuniting to perform? If you do, if you are, what would be your dream band to bring back? That's the subject of our call-in conversation. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. Dream of summer, dream of your dream bands. And in just a minute, when you think of farming, data and spreadsheets don't necessarily come to mind, but a company with an award-winning innovation is crunching the data to help farmers achieve bigger yields. That's in just a couple of minutes. Let's take a quick look at Riley's forecast. A bit of a shot in the arm as far as wind goes today. It's out of the west and kind of brisk, and there's some lingering cloud, he says, that could warm us up even a bit more. And then it's going to get a lot colder next week. In the Winnipeg region today, high of -10 down to -24 tonight. On Saturday, highs of -16. Some temperatures right now. Brandon -14, Churchill -19, and Dauphin it's -13. Gimli is the hot spot at -11. Paw is the cold spot at -22. Thompson -20, and in Winnipeg right now it's mostly cloudy, -13, shooting for a high of -10. It is 15 minutes after 12 o'clock. Farmers have always had to make decisions based on weather, markets, costs, even politics, especially now. But a new program helps farmers make those decisions using their own data. It's a program created by Ontario Agronomy Services. It just won first place at Ag Day's Innovation Showcase. Jen Sabarin and Brunel Sabarin created the program Ontario Insight 2.0. I first asked them how it felt for them to win the award.
Felt fantastic. It's recognition that the hard work that we've been putting into it the last 4 or 5 years is starting to pay off, that other people recognize the value in it, and it's always good to have that recognition, and it also helps us further our business and refine the product even more, that we can bring it to the masses.
Well, Jennifer, can you describe how your program works?
Really what it is we're looking at farmers' data. We're looking at their collected data from every field, from their farm. And then what we're doing is we're trying to see trends, and we're trying to see if we can help them make better decisions based off of improvements that are local to them. So we're trying to make them more profitable using their own data. A lot of farmers have the ability, with all the new technologies they have in their tractors, sprayers, combines, they collect a lot of data every time they cross their fields. But I'm going to say a big majority do not do anything with that data. They don't analyze it, they don't collect it, they don't compare it. So by us taking their data that they're collecting anyway, so it's not anything extra that they have to do, but the fact that we're actually collecting the data, putting it together, analyzing it, and then bringing it to them in a report style that is very easy to read, it gives them so much information at their fingertips, and it makes, I believe it makes things a little bit less stressful for them in an industry that is highly stressful.
So maybe, Brunel, I'll ask you this. What inspired it? What gave you the idea that this kind of program was needed?
Benchmarking is something that isn't new. It's popular in a lot of in other industries, but it's been slower to be adopted in agriculture because there's so much variability from one field to a field to another, or to a farm to another farm, because weather plays such a huge variable, and we can't always predict the weather. It's always Mother Nature has a habit of making us look very smart and sometimes not so smart. So the idea of benchmarking has been slower to adopt, but essentially, like Jen said, we're comparing farms against other farms anonymously to try to find the best management practices that do yield or give us a chance at a better success, whether it's growing better crops or more profitable crops. We help farmers grow better crops. We help them with the planning of what to grow and what inputs are needed. And then we're walking their crops, monitoring their crops throughout the summer, and looking at the impact of weather, and, are there decisions that need to be made because the situation has changed. But the whole idea is to help farmers be more profitable, to grow better, more sustainable crops. So by pooling everybody. We see a lot of different farms, so by pooling everybody's data together, that's what our program does, is it tries to find those tidbits or find those practices that deliver results more consistently.
And how are you letting farmers know, as you say, benchmarking isn't new in itself, but this is a big step forward. How are you getting the word out?
Well, I think that our win at the Innovation Showcase at Manitoba Ag Days, that's going to help. And what we're in the works of doing is we're meeting with developers to develop an app so that it's not just farms that are local to us that could benefit from this benchmarking program, but rather offering it outside of our territory, our trading working area. So we are using media, we are using word of mouth. This is a program that we've been using with a lot of our local farmers for the last 5-6 years. So it's not new to them, but we are just making it even better. We're incorporating our weather network data into it so that we can really start to hone in on what is happening at key times of the crops, that we can then make those precise decisions. We can't control the government. We can't control, what goes on with crop prices, like so commodity prices. We can't control Mother Nature, but we can control the decisions we make on the farm level. So if you can use your own data to make those better decisions and be more profitable, that's the goal.
The whole idea is always in search or striving to find better information. So we know that weather plays such a huge influence on the performance of the crops and in the field, that we felt we needed more accurate data. So we developed a private weather network or a non-farm weather network. So we saw a need for growers wanting better data about what's happening on the field, not just in terms of the forecast the next couple of days or the next week, but also what happened throughout the growing season that influenced the crop. So by incorporating weather data now, we're hoping that we can dive and get better information as to what the impact is. The whole goal is to identify weather scenarios that, we've seen this before in the past, or if we see it again in the future, we'll have better information to base our decisions on as to how the crop potentially will react. The perfect example would be this year. It was a very cool, wet spring, which tends to favor bigger wheat yields. So what we found ourselves was in a situation where we had more potential than what we thought, so we needed to add more fertilizer or more inputs to maximize the potential. But having the weather data helps us make those decisions and helps us fine-tune a lot of that stuff.
And what's next for you two?
Oh, I'm not sure.
That is a good question. I'm celebrating my 50th birthday this year, so I've got a limited number of years left. But I don't know, it's always fun. It's what keeps us going, is being able to help producers make better decisions, help them uncover better ways of doing things. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing too, it's not just what should we be doing, but might also be looking at and saying, what shouldn't we be doing? You look at how much farming has changed in the last 100 years. It was just 100 years ago that we made the switches from horses to tractors. And even my 25, 30-year career, there's been so many changes. It's always changing. And my dad has always said we'll probably see more changes in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 100. And I think that's very exciting, and it's always fun.
Well, congratulations on your award, and thank you very much for joining us on Radio Noon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Jennifer and Brunel Sabourin own Onterra Agronomy Services based in Saint Jean-Baptiste.
Manitoba's the kind of place that draws you in. Every day it's growing, it's changing. Just when you think you've got it figured out, though, there's something new to understand. I'm Marcy Marcusa, host of the CBC Daily Podcast. This is Manitoba. I've covered the news from the rail line in Churchill to the border in Emerson, and it's talking about the local stories that help us understand this place. That's what This is Manitoba is all about. Find it on CBC Listen or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
You're listening to Radio Noon. It is 22 minutes after 12 o'clock. And it's Super Bowl weekend, one of the biggest sporting events in the calendar. The Kansas City Chiefs will face the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, and one Canadian artist is getting an opportunity to showcase his own work as part of the activities. Quentin Commanda was commissioned to design an official NFL football by the league's Canadian branch. For the project, he drew inspiration from his cultural teachings and the essence of the game itself. And Commanda explained to CBC Radio what that means.
I was commissioned to create a design on 2 panels of the 4-panel football. And it definitely doesn't look like a regular football. So this is layered in teachings of Anishinaabeg values from the references of Turtle Island, which is also known as North America, to the medicine wheel teachings. There's a lot of duality teachings going back and forth in the design, but the overall theme is to focus on the strawberry. In my language, Anishinaabe-Moan, we call it the odemin, and that translates to the heartberry. And so I wanted to kind of create that awareness of how the football itself in America is like the heart sport of the country. And I wanted to also show them how Anishinaabe values are also really important about how we acknowledge the land and include, like nature as well as an acknowledgement, not just the human nation being here. So there's a lot of duality that's played in the design. And it's just layered and layered with teachings. Initially, this was for the opening game, opening season. It would have been a ball that they would have launched as an initiative. But it's also part of a bigger picture. There's a group that they've been working with called the Dreamcatcher Foundation. So I was just commissioned as an artist to join the team to create the design. But these footballs are actually going to be sent across the country to different indigenous communities. And it's in hopes of inspiring football, also just to inspire indigenous communities with basically, recognizing us through art and through our ways of how we share and show our culture.
That was artist Quentin Commanda, originally from Nipissing First Nation, and the NFL commissioned him to design a football for this year's Super Bowl to promote the sport among Indigenous communities here in Canada. We have time for a little music now. Winnipeg singer-songwriter Noah Dirksen has shared another single, this time a cover of Leonard Cohen's 1984 song, If It Be Your Will. It's also the final single from Noah's upcoming album, Stolen Serenades. Here is Noah Dirksen and Dominique Adams with If It Be Your Will.
If it be your will that I speak no more, that my voice be still as it was before, I will speak no more. I shall abide until I am spoken for. If it be your will, if it be your will, let a voice be true from this broken hill. I will sing to you from this broken hill. Oh, your praises they shall ring. If it be your will to let me sing, if it be your will, if there is a choice, let the rivers fill, let the hills rejoice, let your mercy spill on all the to make us well. And to draw us near, and bind us tight. All your children here in their eggs of light.
That's Noah Dirksen with his new single, Leonard Cohen's If It Be Your Will, which is kind of interesting because those older songs are kind of what we're talking about on Radio Noon in our call-in this afternoon. We want to hear what you think about the idea that Def Leppard and Foreigner are coming to Winnipeg this summer. Now, there's a couple of old bands. And do you want to see them, or who would you like to see? Do you like the retro bands coming back? Do you have any suggestions for who it should be or great bands that you once saw? Give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's right after the news, which is next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At 12:30, it's minus 12 downtown under a mainly cloudy sky. It's minus 12 in Dauphin and minus 20 with light snow reported in Thompson. The Premier says the province has surpassed its goal of bringing in 1,000 net new healthcare workers. Since April, 1,255 new healthcare workers have been brought into the healthcare system. Premier Wab Kinew says there are 481 new nurses, 386 new healthcare aides, 138 new physicians, and 162 new allied healthcare professionals. Kinew says there are other statistics they can point to that show improvement.
We can point to a 45% reduction in the use of mandatory overtime. That's going to help with burnout. That's going to help with retention, and it's because we can say 481 more nurses working province-wide that we're able to have more reinforcements and bolster that effort on the front lines.
Kinew says there's still more to do, but the additional workers mean they can make progress towards opening more beds to improve healthcare. Federal officials are talking about making Canada less dependent on the U.S. at a summit with business leaders in Toronto.
The message I want to send to Canadians is this country is strong. Don't screw with us. We will come out ahead.
That's Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon. He says there will be assistance for businesses and affected workers, while Internal Trade Minister Anita Annans is talking about what needs to happen to bring in free trade between provinces. She boils it down to 3 priorities.
1, establish mutual recognition amongst provinces and territories. 2, reduce the number of exceptions in the Canadian Free Trade Agreement significantly. 3, ensure greater labor mobility across the country.
Industry Minister Philippe Francois Champagne was speaking to lawmakers in the U.S. Capitol this week. He says the mood toward Canada is changing in Washington. All 4 crew members on the Fortune Pride have been located after their fishing boat capsized off Halifax last night. 2 people were recovered conscious. Another was pulled out unconscious, and the 4th fisher was found in a life raft and taken to hospital. The current condition of the crew members is not known. The Coast Guard says weather conditions were not good last night, with high swells and low visibility. And finally, getting a taste of Nigeria in Brandon.
Make una come by your market, don't do Nigerian food is sweet, eh?
Emmanuel Akobi is excited to showcase Nigerian culture at this weekend's Westman Multicultural Festival in Brandon. He's hosting the city's first Nigerian Cultural Pavilion. Akobi wants to celebrate the growing Nigerian community in the city. This year's festival has 11 pavilions, almost double the number of last year's event. The festival will also feature the first Palestinian Cultural Pavilion. And that is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 1:30.
Thank you very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
And joining me in studio is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachek. Hi, Riley.
Hi.
So winter out there?
Yes.
Continues.
It continues. And we're looking at a return to the deep cold.
Oh, deeper, you mean?
Yeah, I know. I
cool.
mean, fairly seasonal today. Today's fairly seasonal. Our normal high for this time of the year is -9.
Oh.
I'm optimistically saying we get to -10 in Winnipeg this afternoon. We'll see if we get there. Maybe downtown we get there. But right now it's -12 in Winnipeg, -13 in Brandon. Thompson is -19 at the moment. We are seeing varying levels of sun and cloud across the province right now. That cloud is starting to break up. That actually did hold our temperatures a little bit warmer than expected last night. That cloud cover just kind of hung around a little bit longer. It is starting to break up, though, and we're starting to see that at least here downtown with some of the sunnier conditions here in Winnipeg. Certainly back to the west, still a little bit cloudier into Westman, but the sun's starting to make an appearance in the west as well. We'll start to see that clearing ramping up as we get through the afternoon hours. So even by 4 or 5 o'clock, I think we're back into a mainly sunny / mainly clear sky. That continues as we get into Saturday, looking at a mix of sun and clouds through the weekend. A little bit more cloud cover as we head into Sunday, and a little bit of instability in some of this cloud cover. So I've got an isolated chance of a flurry really across the province, at least in the southern half of the province on Sunday. Maybe you pick up a couple of snowflakes. I mean, it's a fairly slim chance, but I'll leave it in the forecast for now. -10 in Winnipeg this afternoon. Gimli, Pinawa also have forecast highs of -10, -11s through Morden, Winkler, Emerson, -12 in Brandon. Thompson, Gillam, maybe a few scattered flurries this afternoon at -17 degrees. And then comes the colder weather, -16 for Saturday, -15, a slight chance of flurries into Sunday. And then I've got highs -19 and colder through next week.
Yeah, I saw that in your forecast, Riley.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's winter in Manitoba.
That's right. I have both my parkas out. The one with lots of fur around the hood,
Yeah.
and the other one that's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Riley.
Have a great weekend.
You too. That's Riley Lechuk, weather specialist, and you can hear him this afternoon on Up to Speed from 3 to 6, and of course you can see him on television on CBC News at 6. You're listening to CBC Radio Noon. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten. You're at 89.3 FM, 990 AM. Oh, that's Def Leppard, one of 3 retro rock bands that will make an appearance in Winnipeg this year. True North Entertainment announced that 2 new stadium shows are happening in July. Classic rockers Def Leppard will play Princess Auto Stadium on July the 9th. It's been 8 years since Winnipeg has had a stadium show. Other performers include vintage groups Foreigner and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Are you happy to see retro bands come to Winnipeg? Or do you save your entertainment dollars for other acts instead? If you're a fan, what would be your dream band that you'd like to resurrect from the rock and roll archives, if not from beyond the grave, I suppose? We want to hear from you. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. Or you can text me at 204-588-7355. Tell us about your dream band or the concert that you can never forget as long as you lived, whether it was in Winnipeg or whether you traveled somewhere to follow your favorite band. Maybe you're a Deadhead from way back. Peter Dooley knows retro bands well. He sells vinyl records at his store, Dooley Records, on Portage Avenue in Winnipeg. And of course, he's been in this studio before and joins us now. Hi, Peter.
Hello there. Thanks for having me back. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to see you. So, Peter, what was your reaction to hearing that Def Leppard and Foreigner were coming to Winnipeg?
Well, I was excited. I'm not usually big on big stadium shows. I love smaller theaters and that, but this looks like a fun day. Like, what a great day to really get nostalgic and enjoy old music.
Yeah, I wonder how much the tickets are. I haven't even looked.
I sure might have the price of a used car, maybe. Who knows? Depends if you're going out with a group of people. Plus, all the other stuff that goes with it.
Well, maybe someone will call in and tell us if you're going. 204-780-0893. So, do you think Winnipeg is a good market for retro bands? Like, why? Why are they having them?
It's beyond me. I don't know. I think so. I think there's a lot of people that are still living in the past but these bands are still putting out current music too. So they are retro bands, but they're all still putting current stuff out, exciting a new generation.
Yeah.
These are the the young kids that are following what their parents liked, and there's new music associated with it as well. So,
well, of course, you sell vinyl in your store,
do. Yeah.
and a lot of that must be retro vinyl.
The majority of what I do is I'm more of a vintage dealer, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
catering to the retro clientele.
Yeah, and that's probably who's going to see Def Leppard and Foreigner, don't you suppose?
Yeah, I think like I said, there are some people that discovered, say, a band like Foreigner because of their singer was in another band called Hurricane, or maybe Joan Jett's been in the media, or whatever reason there is. But for the most part, it's old people reliving the fun times from the past.
And the people that are buying the vinyl are the people that are nostalgic, they're collectors. What's the main reason? Or do they just think the music is better?
I think it's a combination of both. A lot of times people had the record way back in the day when it's fresh and new, and they're pulling off the wrap off the record, and now they're just getting it again, you know, and introducing it to new people, new generation people, right?
Yeah, well, give us a call out there in Radioland and tell us what you think about these big stadium shows with Foreigner and Def Leppard, because these are bands like from the 70s, right? 80s, something like that. Like they've
been around for a while,
been around, and yet stadium shows. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, give us a call, 204-780-0893, and let us know what you think about retro bands coming to town, and what band would you like to see, or what band you wish still existed and that you would like to see. 204-780-0893. So, why do you think it is that we like to see them? Like the vinyl is there, high quality, remastered, beautiful or original. So why do we love to see these old bands perform the old songs?
I think it stirs up old feelings, things from the past that we remember. There's a time and a place when we maybe heard that song or got introduced to that band, and we just want to live it again.
Yeah.
And also, too, a sense of community. You're in a large crowd and you go, hey, I'm not the only one that likes this old geezer stuff. There's other people, too, here. I'm surrounded by my types, right?
Yeah.
My people.
Yeah. Well, and why do you think, what would be the thinking to bring back a vintage band rather than somebody new?
Other than the commerce aspect of it?
What is the commerce
Other than
aspect?
promoters and people capitalizing on this and making money? You know what? I just think it's love of music. I just really think, concert promoters and bands are providing what the public wants, right? So, I don't think there's probably a time where Def Leppard or Joan Jett or Foreigner were playing in the casino somewhere years ago, and this uptick is beyond me. I mean, it's just the way it is, I guess.
Yeah, people are liking to get out there. So, just because you're here, what vintage band would you like to see perform in Winnipeg?
Oh my goodness. I read somewhere that ABBA turned down $1 billion to go on tour, so that would be interesting. But mine is a band called the Smiths. I'd love to see them reunite.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they never will, but I mean, that would be a concert I would travel to wherever for. You know, my neighbor is jumping on a plane to see Oasis somewhere in Europe out of the blue. Like that. That to me was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I've traveled many times to other cities for bands, but a reuniting of a classic band like the Smiths would have been something special for me.
Yeah. So what kinds of old bands are especially popular for the vinyl purchases? You were saying that it's nostalgia and older bands, but what are your big sellers?
Well, it's funny because I on Monday I hosted and co-taught a university class. University of Winnipeg students were inside of my store at 557 Portage Avenue, and it was a part of a class on residual media in the master's degree program of cultural studies. And one of the students asked me, how do you predict the upticks in vinyl? What sells, what doesn't? And I had said, if there's something like a song on a commercial, or maybe unfortunately somebody passes, but I said when a concert announcement happens, there's an uptick.
Yeah.
And what happened was, sure enough, Alice Cooper's birthday was the other day.
Oh, yeah?
I sold about 5 Alice Cooper records as a
Did
result.
you really?
And on my Instagram and my Facebook page, people are messaging for Def Leppard, Foreigner, Joan Jett.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just that sort of thing happens.
Yeah.
And not to mention, there is a band called Took that's on that same bill.
Yeah.
They do fantastic cover tunes. There's a fellow named Brett Fitz who's from Winnipeg. He's the drummer of that band. They're going to be entertaining the crowds too on the big show as well.
Yeah.
Worth mentioning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is. So give us a call and tell us what your favorite concert is that you've ever seen, or where you've ever gone, or what was the first concert you ever saw in Winnipeg? Give us a card.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's
204 780-0893. Now I see you've got a little kind of vinyl case there.
Well,
what'd you bring?
I don't know. I brought my red case. That means I mean business or I mean to show off. One of the two. So
do both.
I did.
Do both.
I brought a little handful of records to show off. I'm not sure if there's glare on the outside of the poly sleeve records, but I did bring. I don't know who I'm showing this to, but I did bring the iconic Joan Jett.
Oh, look at
I
that,
love rock.
Joan Jett.
I love rock and roll. So this is one of those ones that I have plenty in stock. People are asking for. I brought a foreigner record that I thought was just as an original vintage pressing record of inside information, still sealed.
Look
so
at
this
that.
is old store stock from way back.
What's
in the
that
day.
worth?
Look, I have a price tag on it right now. I just
Oh,
put my yeah, it's an $18 record.
Oh, yeah,
So yeah,
okay.
but it's still sealed brand new from way back in the day.
Could take that to the concert and get it autographed.
Yeah, well, that's who comes in to buy.
Is
when,
it?
when Springsteen was in town, people were coming in buying Springsteen records to get autographs. So it
Oh.
wouldn't surprise me. They'll look for a white record, something with lots of place to write.
Right.
I brought a Def Leppard record. I think this is my favorite. Pyromania is the one key record everybody collects, everybody wants. But I always like this On Through the Night record. I brought what I call grails.
Grails.
Yes, these are old pressing records that are hard to get, high demand, and high dollar amount.
Oh, like Holy Grails.
They are like holy grail. So NWA, this is an original pressing from way back in the day. It's about a $200 record. This is no
Really?
joke. Yeah, this is a surprise. Garth Brooks.
Wow.
Was not released
when he was a wee child.
Yeah, it was not released in Canada. This was like a mail order purchase back in the day in 1989. I got an original pressing of the Tragically Hip. Still has the old
Ooh.
HMV price tag on it.
What is
still.
that? $9.95?
Yeah, well, it was on sale for $9.99, but now it's about $180.
$180, so it's really gone
yeah,
up. Boy,
but that's still
like,
considered cheap
Bitcoin.
towards my two biggest grails. I'll show off quickly before I get a chance.
please. Lots of time. Yeah.
This is Crocodile. This is a Swiss prog rock group.
Okay.
This came in the strangest collection, about $380.
Wow. And why? What is it about that record?
It's beyond me. I think just because it's a colorful artwork, it's a strange record. It was probably low print run. Speaking of low print runs, this is the most expensive record I have. This is called, this is Billy Martin's Strawberry Soul.
Okay.
$500.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, we're giving an armed guard when you leave the studio.
And
wow.
I walked over here lucky, but I brought more if you want to see some more.
Sure, let's see what you got.
This band's called The Glove, and it's an offshoot of, this is Robert Smith from The Cure mixed with some people from Susie and the Banshees. It's a kind of one-off record.
Cool.
Hard to find. But I brought what's very Winnipeg. Very,
Okay.
very Winnipeg. Motley Crue.
Oh,
Motley Crue, the Theater Pain.
Okay.
So Motley Crue is a big seller in Winnipeg. This
Is
is
it?
sort of like, you can't keep this sort of stuff on the shelf. This is what I say appeal to the two key demographics for my store over at Dooley Records 557 Portage. This is the young 20-year-old kids and the 60-year-old curmudgeon men that come in looking
And they're
for
both on the cover.
They're both on the cover. So this is the sort of thing. Earlier on, I mentioned the Smiths would be the band. I would love to see. I brought a Smiths record. Queen is Dead. This is an original pressing. They remake these brand new, but this is an original.
And when
pressing.
were they?
This is an 80s. This is 80s stuff.
Right,
Yeah, along with stuff I listen to, like the Psychedelic Furs.
Oh, the Psychedelic Furs.
Yeah. So
Also
this
a
is-
closed book to
yeah.
me. Who are they?
This is also a British band. When we were talking about our first concerts we were seeing, I traveled to London, England at the Hammersmith Odeon in the early 80s to see
Yeah.
this band. So
Oh.
this is a little memory for me. I thought we were
Sure.
talking about concerts. And just a fun thing. I don't know why I brought this, but this is a mobile fidelity pressing of Cyndi Lauper, She's So Unusual. Beautiful retro pop record, but high fidelity. So this is what guys that have the very expensive stereo systems that really want the quality sound.
Yeah.
Which to me is kind of funny because it's a fun pop record.
Yeah.
It's been around forever,
But the production value.
But the production
as they
value is
say.
there. So it
Okay.
justifies the $44 price tag rather than the $12 price tag, right? So that's a little handful I brought. But again, I've got 60,000 records. I didn't know what to bring today.
Well, that's fantastic. And we'll have you back and talk some more about them. And thank you very much for coming in. We're going to try and squeeze in, a nice old school kind of a song. It's not exactly a soothing little song, but a little AC/DC. But thank you very much, Peter, for being with us.
I love coming in. Anytime you need me to come in and talk and nerd out about music, I'm
It's
here
great.
I'm here for you. I'm here to answer any questions. And a quick plug for my store, 557 Portage Avenue,
bet.
Dooley Records. I've been in business for quite some time in the community, but downtown, it's still a fresh store. I'm looking for new faces to come through the door. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Dooley Records.
There
Check
you
me
go.
out.
You heard it here, and now you're going to hear this. This is AC/DC and Thunderstruck. Well, from the Radio Noon Hit Parade, that was a retro band going way back. It was AC/DC. And they last played the Winnipeg Arena April 28th, 2001. Oh, it was good fun having Peter Duell in here talking about retro bands and old vinyl. You're listening to Radio Noon. It is 7 minutes before 1 o'clock. And if you're looking for a weird flavor of beer, and who isn't really? You might want to head to Edmonton. About 19 different options are on offer during this year's Weird Beer Adventure. CBC's Sarah Reed stopped by one of the breweries to learn more about their creative concoction.
Yeah, they're just so The sound of a pint being poured is one that beer lovers celebrate.
It's always subtle.
But the taste of this particular pint is likely not what beer drinkers are expecting.
It kind of blew me away. I was just like, I feel like I'm drinking pineapple pizza.
Which may seem weird, but that's actually the point of Analog Brewing Company's Pizza Gose, which is the brewery's entry for this year's Weird Beer Adventure.
Oh, I like it. It's good stuff.
That's the reaction that Adam Corso, the president and co-founder of Analog, was hoping people would have, despite the debate around their choice of toppings.
Did you have any concerns about it not being well received because of the controversy of pineapple and pizza?
Well, there are people who like pineapple on pizza, and there are people who are wrong.
But this beer may be changing the minds of those whose first choice isn't a fruit-topped pie.
I don't like pineapple on my pizza, but I'm actually shocked at how much this tastes like it.
But how does a beer go from malt, hops, yeast, and water to a pizza gose? Well, it's not what you think.
It's not as if we're throwing the actual pizzas into the tank.
But they do use the same ingredients.
Rosemary, thyme, basil, oregano, and we added them during both the end of the boiling process during the brew day, as well as the dry hop when the beer is conditioning in tank.
And the result is surprisingly similar.
It's got all those hits of like pizza sauce boiling away in the pot, and you have a sip and you get pineapple up front, and then those herbs on the back end where like normally that's where your hop bitterness is coming in. So it's just pineapple up front, pizza on the back end, and it's exactly what we wanted it to be.
But if pineapple pizza isn't your thing, with 18 different local breweries participating in the Weird Beer Adventure, there's something for everyone. Probably.
My favorite of the festival with the dill pickle spicy Pilsner. The other one that I've heard absolute rave reviews for was SYC made a Banana Foster's beer. There's Manual Labor that made a shrimp cocktail horseradish ale. That was absolutely delicious. And Town Square, they made a Cheeto Dust IPA.
The goal of the adventure is to give brewers a fun challenge during a typically quiet time of year, and the results have people driving from all over to give it a try.
It's getting to the point where people are making it a tourist thing. We had a family drive from Saskatchewan last Saturday. They hit up all 19 participating breweries in 2 days. Staying at a motel on Calgary Trail, and they're going to drive back to Saskatoon on the Sunday. Cheers.
Well, Faith Fundal and I have been shouting into the radio, no,
thanks. I mean, maybe.
Not the shrimp cocktail?
Look, I like shrimp. I like shrimp cocktails.
Uh-huh.
I actually like pineapple on my pizzas.
I frown on it.
I also like beer. But if you don't like any of those things, and then you put them together in food form, like, but
Well, it's very successful as a tourist thing. Whole families coming and trying all this weird stuff, and why not?
people are weird, and I'm glad for them.
Exactly. We all need this in our lives.
We sure do. Sure do.
I am talking to Faith Fundal, of course, host of Up to Speed. And what's on the show?
Okay, so we just heard about twists, but you're going to hear about a different twist that I think you'll like. Take a listen.
Kawin maku am siapi enende Kawin gujia siapi enende.
Okay, so that is a tune that you've probably heard before, but not that way.
No.
That's singer-songwriter Mitchell McCoons and his version of the Bill Withers tune Ain't No Sunshine.
When You're Gone.
When You're Gone.
Yeah.
And he's going to be on the show to talk about that cover that came out today.
Fantastic.
And why he chose to write it in that way.
Gotta listen.
Yep. Also, if you are frustrated about pizza, the other thing we were talking about, we're actually going to hear from a Winnipegger who is frustrated with the city's approach to clearing sidewalks. She says she's trapped until the snow is removed, and it's frustrating. So
yeah.
We'll hear more about that on the show.
Sounds very interesting. Thanks a lot, Faith.
Thank you.
And you can listen to Up to Speed from 3 to 6 this afternoon. And that was Faith Fundal joining us in studio. You're listening to the last little minute of Radio Noon. It's Friday. and it's seasonal out there, as Roddy would say. Hope you get out there and enjoy it, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye.